Your station, 101 FM, with Saturday Sports Scene.
Good morning and welcome to Sports Scene for another week here. Kevin Braysher here with you as always, right here on 101 FM. It's time to get through all the biggest and latest news from the world of sport. Joining me on the panel this morning, founding father of Sports Scene, Mr. Darren Madigan. Darren, welcome to the show, mate.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. And what a week it has been in sport. We've had the release of the interim report with ASADA, which we'll go into a little bit later in the show, but at least we know a bit further where we're at. As far as Aussie Rules fans are concerned, at the grassroots local level, we got some word on the NEFL overnight, so we'll be able to bring you up to date on all of that. And lots of great sport happening around the world at the moment. And as we predicted last week, our good mate Usain Bolt didn't let us down. And there's still some more Bolt love to have this weekend in the 200 and 4x100. I can't wait.
We love us some Bolt love here on Sports Scene. Also joining us from the AFL Queensland Hall of Fame and the Southport Sharks, Mr. Craig Crowley. What a week it's been in Aussie Rules, mate.
I tell you what, have we got enough time? Have we got enough time?
We might not.
And while we got you there, a big happy birthday to Darren Madigan.
Hey.
How old, Darren?
Oh, 40.
Yeah,
Happy birthday, Darren.
happy birthday, mate.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
That's right. And also joining us, that sarcastic voice in the corner over there, Mr. Ethan James from the GCRL. Welcome to the show again, mate.
Why am I always a sarcastic voice in the corner, Kev? I've got a bit of a moniker going there. I'm not sure I like it. But anyway, another exciting weekend of rugby league coming up. Plenty of big matches in the Intra Super Cup, and we saw the Bronx keep their slim finals hopes alive last night.
Yeah, a couple of the Queensland sides in the NRL all of a sudden just breathing a little life into their season. Let's get into the results from last night. We'll start with the NRL and the Brisbane Broncos 22-12 over Parramatta at Suncorp Stadium. As you say, keeping their slim finals hopes alive. What did you think of them, Ethan?
Yeah, well, I'll put the emphasis on the slim, I think, after seeing the way that they played last night. It wasn't the best match in terms of quality. Parramatta, we know how they're travelling this year, not all that well. Brisbane there without Hodges. It was a stop-start sort of mistake-riddled match, but they did enough to get there, and, they can sort of build on it, but I can't see them with Hodges, without Hodges, making...
Interesting news during the course of the week. I know going off the game a little bit, that Parramatta merging or going north to play a few games up in NT. That'll be interesting for their expansion and getting out there to the people. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. It's a good initiative for them, and I think a very good financial thing for that club too. Is something they struggle with too. But I think it's a great thing. The more you spread it out to areas that don't get a lot of high quality rugby league, get it out there. So that's something I'm very happy to see.
Good initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we'll talk about it a little later on, but you mentioned there Justin Hodges, of course, rupturing his Achilles tendon, mate. That was tough to see last week, and it's tough for Broncos fans to see him go down with that injury again, because he did it in 2010.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, Hodges now, you look at where he's placed in his career, I don't want to say it's going to be the end of him, but to come back from an injury like that at his age is going to be a big ask.
Well, fingers crossed he can, because he was playing some of the best football he's played in years this season. He's been fantastic. So speedy recovery to Justin Hodges, hopefully. The other game last night, South Sydney 22 defeat Manly 10 at Blue Tongue Stadium. They saw the return of Greg Inglis and John Sutton, and what a boost that is to their side, having those two guys there, even without Sammy Burgess, who was gone for reasons we'll probably discuss a little later on in the show. AFL round 21 last night. Hawthorn, another win for Hawthorn, 18-11-119, defeating Collingwood 12-12-84 at the MCG.
Yeah, look, for half a game, you would say that all the reports were right, that Collingwood are in this. They were physical, they were really dishing it up to Hawthorn, but their overall skill level just at the end of the day was just too strong for the Collingwood football side, and Hawthorn just looked really ominous going into the final series. So it's going to, it was quite strange. Heath Shaw at one stage was playing on Buddy Franklin. For people who don't know, Heath Shaw is about 5'10" at best. The Collingwood 6-footer, and obviously Lance Franklin at 6'5", but done a great job. So, yeah, it's interesting to see what they have to do. But, they would just show their supremacy, didn't they?
They certainly did. Look, we'll talk all the Aussie rules at the top of the second hour of the show at 9 o'clock. We'll move on to the world of the rest of the world of sport. And the tennis first, Darren, over in the US, Federer versus Nadal, number 31, gets underway in just under an hour's time. I know anyone who's into tennis is excited about that, but there was a big upset overnight as well.
I was just going to say, I don't care if they're playing in their wheelchairs. I never get sick of this rivalry, and it's just a shame that where their rankings sit them means that they meet a lot earlier these days. But they're in the quarters. They're on court any minute now, and the 3 other quarterfinals have been decided. Del Potro defeated Tursunov 6-4, 3-6, 6-1. Eisner has defeated Djokovic 7-6, 7-5 in the breaker, 3-6, 7-5. Now, Cincinnati is massive, and Djokovic was going for history at this tournament too, to have won all of the Masters Series tournaments at least once. Thomas Berdych defeated Andy Murray 3-4, but this is such a massive tournament in the lead up to the US Open. Part of the US Open series, which is a number of tournaments that lead up to the US Open, and if people do well in them, they can get ridiculously large paychecks if they go on to win the US Open. But Rafa Roger is massive, but that Eisner-Djokovic result is absolutely huge. Looking at the girls at the moment, their quarters, Elena Jankovic has defeated Roberta Vinci, Love and 4, and Serena has defeated Simona Halep by exactly the same score, and a couple more quarters there to be played. Now we've got, as far as the golf is concerned and the PGA Tour, we have the Wyndham Championship at Sedgefield in Greensboro, North Carolina this weekend. Now, the importance of this tournament, it's the final tournament in the let's call it the home and away season, to use a football parlance. After this, they go into the final, so to speak, which is the FedEx Cup Series. Now, the importance of this is that they'll look at the top 125 money earners after this, and the bottom line with this tournament is that there are a lot of players playing for their PGA Tour card for next year, and there'll be a lot of Australians involved in that as well. So everybody's going to be going hell for leather to try and get into that top 125 on the PGA Tour, so they've got a job for next year. Otherwise, they've got to do all sorts of horrible hoops and stuff they've got to jump through to get into it for the following year. NASCAR moves to Michigan this week, the big 2-mile super speedway, and I can tell you Joey Logano has taken pole for this weekend's race, and 26th at the moment, Marcus Ambrose will start there. Marcus is pulling double duty this weekend. He'll also be racing in the Nationwide Series at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, so somebody else will be qualifying his car there. And the IAAF World Championships of Athletics is still on at the moment. As I said before, we had a lot of Bolt love last weekend, 9.77, just a lazy little run in the park for the Jamaican superstar. And tonight he will race in the 200-metre final. He had a nice leisurely 20-second run for the 200 this time, which is nearly a second slower than his best time, and the 4x100 tomorrow. So one would expect he will walk away with another 3 World Championship gold medals. Kevin?
Thank you very much for that, Darren. Big show planned today. It's jam-packed, all sorts of issues and things to talk about. After the first break, we're going to get Mark Beaumont from the South Logan Magpies on the phone. They had a good win last week against Mackay, Ethan, potentially a crucial one for their chances in the finals.
Yeah, that's it. A bit of an upset. They travelled up there to Mackay and knocked off the team coming second. So
pretty comfortably too.
Yeah. Good result there for South Logan, so well done to them. And yeah, it keeps their finals chances alive with 3 matches to go.
Absolutely, and Mark Beaumont will be on the show to tell us all about it just in a little bit. Also in the show, the Bledisloe Cup, of course, tonight. We haven't won it in 10 years. Hopefully the Wallabies can get off to a winning start tonight. We'll talk about that, and as well, the cricket. Yeah, we lost that last week, so we'll talk about that as well. The Aussie Rules in the second part of it, the second hour of the show. Also the motorsport. Paula Stewart's on the phone as well to talk netball. Stay with us. There's loads to talk about right here on 101 FM. 16 minutes past 8. Your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, Craig Crowley, all here with you. Joining us on the phone, coach of the South Logan Magpies and turning into a bit of a sports scene regular, Mr. Mark Beaumont. Mark, welcome back to the show, mate.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we all today?
Good, thanks, Mark.
Very good.
Mate, of course, last week you guys travelled up to Mackay, their Virgin Australia Stadium, to take on the second place team in the competition. You came home with a big win, mate. Tell us about the win last week.
Yeah, it was. It was obviously very pleasing, to go up there, and probably from the week before where we were very disappointing when we went to Yarrabah with the Northern Pride. So it was really pleasing. We, to be honest, I think we probably caught them off guard a little bit, with Mackay. I don't think they played real well. So that probably played into our hands a little bit. But to the boys' credit, they defended really well, and the week before we conceded 40 points, and last week we only conceded 12. So there's a massive turnaround there in a few attitudes and just application to defence, and they managed to get us a victory. So really pleasing.
Mark, just a situation like it's always hard on the players themselves. You've had 2 away games. Significant away games. Sorry, one of them was a home game, wasn't it?
Up at Yarra.
Yeah, that's right. So, but you've travelled twice, mate. You go to the Sunshine Coast this week. How taxing getting into the final situation is this on the players? Is it taking a lot out of the players?
Yeah, it is a little bit, and obviously I've had to be very careful in the amount of, volume we do throughout the week. So that's obviously the downside of it. But probably, the good side of it is that, we're in that environment where we're travelling together, and you don't have sort of any, too many outside interruptions when you travel like that. So, in terms of, the players spending some quality time together and, just sort of getting to know them. I know it sounds silly at this time of year, but, that being together and playing together type of motto, and so that's obviously the advantages of being away. But and obviously so there's a few times there where really we've done virtually bugger all at training, just a few bit of gym and some stretching sessions.
So that's the secret, or?
Sort of to recover.
Yeah, look, in saying that, obviously you've still got a slim chance to make the finals, mate. Do you reckon this bonding, as you're speaking about, could work in your favour, or the travel and the consistent lack of solid training, for want of a better word, can that be detrimental to you? Which way would you think?
I think it probably could be a good thing for us. There's always that chance it could be detrimental, but I certainly would like to think that we're well prepared if we manage to jag a semi-final and have to travel to Mackay, or to Cairns. This is what we have done it tough on the road. So the guys haven't relied on a home ground advantage to win some games at the back end of the year. So, it sort of maybe makes us a bit more resilient, in playing an away semi. And if we scrape into the finals, we won't finish high enough to, earn a home semi-final. So, we'll be on the road in those semis if we make it that far. So, I think it sort of probably prepares as well if we can scrape in.
That's it. Look, mate, you've played the top 2 teams in the competition the last 2 weeks, just changing tone a little bit. Who would you say is probably the team to beat at the moment in this competition?
I'd definitely say the Northern Pride. And let alone, the fact that, yes, we beat Mackay last week. Northern Pride, they just, are very well coached, and, they're a relentless side. They give you too much opportunity. And, up there in Yarra, it was 10-0 at half time. Obviously the scoreline reads 44-0. But, like I said, it was a good physical contest early on, and just sort of, their class sort of shone through in the end and really sort of put us to the sword in that second half. And, definitely the 2 times we played them, I'd say the Northern Pride would be, I read an article the other day saying that it's probably theirs to lose, and I'd have to agree with that,
What do you think sort of sets them apart there at the top of the ladder? I mean, they'll essentially claim the minor premiership if they win this weekend. What do you think sort of sets them apart from maybe, I don't know, even the rest of the teams in the comp?
I think that, there's a couple of things that really play in their favour. Is obviously their location, and they've obviously got their travel down pat when they come to Brisbane. But they play in Cairns, and it's probably the toughest road trip in the Queensland Cup, so that as their advantage. But on the field, they're probably their speed and their power. They're a very fit side. That they get through things really quickly and in high intensity. So they're just relentless in that, and they just sort of come wave after wave after wave, and they don't sort of ever let you too many opportunities to get in the game. So that obviously makes it very hard. Where some sides will give you a few opportunities to get into the game, the Northern Pride really limit the amount they give you, and it's a sign of a quality side, obviously.
Listening to Sports Scene here on 101 FM, Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, Craig Crowley, all with you. Joining us on the phone from the South Logan Magpies, Mark Beaumont. Darren, you got a question for Mark?
Yeah, Mark, g'day. It's Darren here, mate. You run home. We're looking at the moment at 3 what are away games, even your home games being played in Gladstone, according to the website. We've got, let's take a look here. We've got Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles this weekend at Stockland Park. You've got a play up in Gladstone against the Central Capras. That is down as your home game. And we've also got East Tigers at Langlands. That's your run home. How are you feeling about it?
Oh, not too bad. We're, obviously, we're sort of playing, without, sounding, the money's in the bag, so to speak. But, we've got 2 sides there. We've played the 2 top sides the last 2 weeks. We're probably, playing 2 of the lower sides in the next 2 weeks. So, for us, we need to have a good performance, backed out of Mackay last week, today. And then, obviously, make sure we beat Central Capras next week, which you'll see is on 26 points. And, it might give us a chance if we can beat East in that last round. It might sneak us into 28 that, possibly that, we'll need to get into the semis. So we need some other results to go our way as well. But all we can do is look after ourselves. And, if we can win the next 3 weeks, it gives us a bit of a chance.
What's the story on that game in Gladstone? I mean,
obviously that through the QRL and through Gladstone, they've obviously asked us to take a home game out there. There's obviously some financial benefits for us to take it out there, and
Sure.
it's just the fact that we sometimes really struggle to get a crowd against like a side like the Comets who don't really have a big supporter base down here in South East Queensland. So took the game up to Gladstone. That was done like early on in the pre-season, which obviously they're the decisions the club makes, but. Yeah, in hindsight, I'd love to have that at Davies Park, like in the second last week of the year. But it is what it is, and I said it's another challenge for us. So we'll see how we go.
So, mate, tell us about the game today against Sunny Coast Sea Eagles. What have you guys got to do to beat the Sunny Coast today?
Oh, I know it sounds a little bit silly. We need to play like we did last week against Mackay. We controlled possession really well and we defended really well. So the possession with Sunny Coast, the way they where they sit on the ladder, they'll certainly compete with you if you allow them. So for us it's about getting through our sets and getting a good kick chase on and just making sure we're really built into the game and possibly some opportunities might present themselves later in the game. But we certainly got to work hard, early to gain that, authority in the game. So, we certainly got to, have our guard up, and we can't just go there and expect the 2 points because of where they sit on the ladder. So, that's something I really drove home to the guys last night at training, and hopefully they turn up with good attitudes, and so we can defend well and hold the footy and get the win this afternoon.
Yeah, that's it. And on a bit of a different tangent, the QRL have brought in a new award for the end of season presentation this year. It's a People's Choice Award, which essentially the fans can vote on a player from each club, and I understand the club sort of had to nominate a player to put forward for that award. So, who of the South Slogans Magpies nominated?
Yeah, our nomination was Matty Pittman. Obviously, Matty made the Queensland residence now, which was for the 3rd year in a row, and he's been I think he's been there for 5 years now at our club, and a really good club man, and hopefully he goes well. He's got his work cut out up against Petro in that competition, because the boys were laughing at it with him last night about it. But Matty Pittman, I said he's been good for our club, and certainly a good leader on the field, in the way he plays in the front row for us, and that was probably instrumental in him coming back last week from his 2-week suspension. Sort of lifted the boys a bit in that performance in Mackay. So. All your listeners out there, get on and vote for Matty. Would be handy.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you about the return of Matty Pittman last week. Well, how big was the difference to the side with him back in the team last weekend?
Yeah, it was. I'd like to say I think we're not a one-man band, but it's like just having that, obviously that quality of player, and he sort of just brings that confidence to other guys around him. That he obviously gets through his fair share of work, and obviously the work that he does as a front rower is the tough stuff. So that that helped us massively, and he's a massive part of what we do at our club, and obviously we miss him when he's not there. So having him back was was really good, and obviously he was sort of a bit short of a gallop, but just his presence was really good, and hopefully he can have a good one again today for us.
Absolutely, mate. Well, we'll be pulling for him in the People's Choice Award here at SportzScene, although, as you say, he's got some stiff competition with Petro Sivanasiva there. The South Slogan Magpies take on the Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles this afternoon at Stockland Stadium, 2:30 p.m. Mark Beaumont, thanks again for being with us, mate.
No problem, gentlemen, anytime.
Absolutely, mate. Always a pleasure. We'll take a quick break here on SportzScene. We'll come back. We'll talk some more rugby league. Stay with us.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly outside your property? Perhaps you've noticed a floodlight over a zebra crossing that's not operating. Well, Energex would like you to report it to them by calling 13 12 53 or completing an online form for faulty street lights on their website at energex.com.au. Remember also that the council has to pay the running cost of all the street lights, whether they're working or not. So let's get the most for our rateable dollar by reporting the street lights not functioning to Energex on 13 12 53 or on their website energex.com.au.
This is our home, this is our place. Whatever we do for tomorrow. Driving around, don't use the ground. Do the right thing,
101 FM.
Now it's back to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Craig Crowley, Ethan James, all still here with you. Big thanks to Mark Beaumont, who was just on the phone with us, telling us all about the South Logan Magpies. And good luck to them this afternoon when they take on the Sunny Coast Eagles up at Stockland Stadium up there on the Sunny Coast. A great facility up there. I wish I could watch all my footy there if it wasn't so far away.
Yeah, it's a nice little grandstand. It's a pretty big grandstand, actually, to be honest. But yeah, one of the best sort of viewing grounds, or probably the best viewing ground in the Intra Super Cup. The grandstand there is sensational. Great facilities. So.
Absolutely. It's a good day of footy if you're up that way, up on the Sunny Coast. Before we get into the tips for the Intra Super Cup, Ethan, there's some signing news again this week.
Yeah, the Brisbane Broncos have picked up a young Redcliffe playmaker by the name of Zach Strasser there from the Dolphins. He's only a young kid playing his first season there in the Intra Super Cup footy. Plays in the halves, so Broncos are obviously looking to sort of strengthen that area. He's only 20 years old, so I think he's got a big future ahead of him. He won the Colts, the under-20s premiership there with Redcliffe.
He won it.
He won it. He did. It was just him on the field, and he took down the other 17. It was quite
see him in defence. He's like lightning.
It was incredible. And just with the ball, he just ran through.
Might have been just the trouble of getting to the ball, eh?
It was amazing, Craig. Amazing. So that's why they signed him up.
Absolutely. Well, congrats to him. It's great. And the Broncos are certainly stocking up on young halves if all the rumours are true, with Barber and Milford as well, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's get some tips for the Intra Super Cup, of course. Sunny Coast, South Logan this afternoon, mate. Give us a tip on that one first of all.
Yeah, well, we just spoke to Mark Beaumont there on the line. South Logan off that really impressive win against Mackay. They're playing for a spot in the finals. They've got, a lot on the line against the Sunshine Coast team that's running last, so I think they'll get up today up there.
They should win that game and keep their season alive for another week. Central Queensland Kappa is up against the Mackay Cotters at Brown Park. That's tonight, 6 p.m.
Yeah, well, of course, Mackay, going down to South Logan. I'm expecting them to bounce back in a pretty big way. They're a quality team, and they wouldn't have enjoyed losing to South Logan last week, I'm guessing. So I reckon the bounce back factor will be massive.
They should bounce back, but Central Queensland, very dangerous side at home. So not a far-gone conclusion, but you've got to tip Mackay with the bounce back factor here. The TV game tomorrow afternoon, the Northern Pride up against the Burleigh Bears up at Barlow Park, 2 p.m. tomorrow live on Channel 9. What are your thoughts, Ethan?
Yeah. First off, it's great to see the Channel 9 cameras going all the way up there to Cairns to televise the match.
Big effort.
I'm sure Darren's pretty chuffed about that.
A big effort. There's I don't know, something's going on up here. There's a lot of media people floating around up here this weekend and through the early part of next week, some of which I know and some I don't. But fantastic effort by Channel 9 to get around. We've mentioned last season and this season that they didn't just take the rights and leave it in southeast Queensland. They've been all over the place, and kudos to them for coming up. They're playing at Barlow Park, and hopefully the Bears will step up and give them a good game, but gee, you wouldn't want to pick against the Northern Pride at the moment.
I wouldn't pick against the Northern Pride, but Burleigh have been beaten by big margins on very few occasions this year. They have this tendency to get close but not get wins. So I think that's probably the safer bet in this one. They'd win. It was only 2 points last time they played, Northern Pride getting up by 2 points in the last minute. So I think Burleigh will push them, but you got to tip Northern Pride in this one. Winner Manly Seagulls up against the East Tigers. This will be a grudge match at Coogoroi Oval, 2 p.m. It was a bit of a bloodbath last time. Winner will be looking for revenge.
That's it, Kev. I am ridiculously keen for this match. It's going to be an absolute cracker. East, they're sitting at third, Wynnum at fourth. The local derby between these two, it's always fiery regardless of where they are on the ladder, but there's so much to play for both teams in this. If a win for either side will sort of not almost cement, but it'll give them a really good boost heading into the finals where the loser could possibly drop down to sixth. So local derby, there's plenty of quality players on show. Corey Norman will be playing there for Wynnum. Massive crowd is expected out there, so it's going to be good.
One thing I've noticed, been to a lot of different grounds this year covering the Q Cup games, but probably the two grounds where they had the most and the loudest supporters were at Wynnum and at East. So you put them together at Coogoroi Oval, it's going to be a terrific atmosphere down there tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, that's it. And of course, Wynnum, the Chook Pen there, they're pretty parochial. Not always the most partisan sort of supporters, but they get behind their team without a doubt. Yeah, it's going to be a sensational game. Really looking forward to it, and it'll set the tone for sort of these two teams heading into the final series. The winner of this one could probably really get on the roll and gather a bit of momentum, and the loser will probably struggle a bit to sort of get a spot there in the 5. So we'll see how it goes.
That's it. North Devils up against Ipswich Jets at Bishop Park tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m.
Yeah, another sort of crucial match in the makeup of the finals series. Ipswich sitting there at 5th, North Devils down a little bit further in 7th, but I tossed the coin this one, Kev. I'm not really sure which way to go. North's got the home ground advantage, but yeah, in terms of tipping, on the line. Yeah,
it's really a tough one to tip, that one. I lean towards Ipswich in it, but as you say, North's at home. It's going to be a very important game for both sides as they fight for that spot in the top 5. And also, the last match of the round, another team fighting to get that spot. They dropped out of the top 5 after a narrow loss last week. The Tweedhead Seagulls, they host Redcliffe Dolphins at Piggabeen tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Piggabeen, of course, with their brand new clubhouse there after Paul Harrigan built it with his bare hands.
Yes, along with Zach Strasser, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it should be an entertaining, or maybe not entertaining. It'll be a tough physical match. Yeah, once again, a final spot on the line. Tweed, they've shown some really impressive form. They beat East a few weeks ago, but they sort of dropped off a little bit last week. Redcliffe there with Petro, of course, in the lineup, and plenty of dangerous players in the outside backs, plenty of speed. I don't know. Once again, a toss of the coin. It's really hard to pick this round.
I lean towards Tweed at home. They've got to win. They would have been disappointed to go down narrowly last week. I think we lean towards Tweed in that one. Let's take a look at the ladder now. We got the Northern Pride out on top. The Mackay Cutters, East Tigers, Wynnum Manly, Ipswich Jets is the top 5. Tweedhead Seagulls, they're in 6th, just 1 point behind. Then we're down to the North Devils, Redcliffe Dolphins, South Logan Magpies, all in with mathematical chances to make the top 5. And then we got Central Queensland, Burleigh, Sunny Coast rounding it all out. That's the Intrust Super Cup for now. Let's take a look at the NRL. Of course, last night the Broncos 22-12 over Parramatta, mate. How can they make the semi-finals is the question.
Mathematically they can. Whether they've got the side and the play in them at the moment. Craig shaking his head there next to me. He's not confident.
They won't go too far, I don't think.
No.
Filling up numbers.
Even if they were to make it, it's tough to see him challenge, but they have been on a real roll. Benny Hunt, mate, how much of an impact has he made playing at 7 the last few weeks?
Yeah, last night was actually the first match that I've seen him play at halfback since he switched there a few weeks ago. Fair to say he probably didn't have the best match last night, but I think in terms of his presence and his role in the side, I think it's obviously his preferred position. He's been playing sort of backup hooker on the bench for a few years now, but he's a definite halfback, and I think he's really helped the side since his move there. So
I think even Scott Prince has benefited from the move there. I think Scott Prince has played some of his best football since moving over to the Broncos over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it shows because the Broncos have been winning games. And there's a time earlier in the season, there's no way they would have, even Parramatta, they probably would have struggled to win a game without Justin Hodges. And it ended up 10 points in the end, but they were pretty comfortable. Really, it was 22-6 at one point. It could have been more. So a pretty comfortable win for the Broncos, and all they can do is keep winning to control their destiny. So as far as their finals chances go, they just need to keep winning every week. Of course, we touched on it at the top of the show, but the loss of Justin Hodges is huge. Ruptured Achilles tendon. He's gone for the year. Will be gone until probably at least midway through next year. Yeah. Craig, for a guy his age, would you expect him to come back from... He's done the Achilles once before. He's had all sorts of hamstring and knee injuries in the past. What would you expect from Justin Hodges next season?
Well, you probably hit the nail on the head there by saying he's done it before, so he knows what's in front of him. He knows his rehabilitation, what he's got to do. You could see by after the game, his mindset he looked really positive, and I think that's a good thing. He knows what he has to do, and I think he's, within his own body, he's obviously his nose. But the best thing about an injury, if there is, it gives your body just time to settle down while you're doing the rehab for that particular injury. So if he has got ongoing ailments with, whether it be hamstrings or anything else, gives him 12 months to get all that right as well. So he can work heavily on his injury, which he knows what to do. That's the most important thing. He's got through it before, and I've got no doubt he'll do it again. Age is in football is totally in the mind as far as I'm concerned. If you can still play at the rate, the indicator is how he comes back from it. If it does detract from his ability to run, to manoeuvre, to step, whatever the case may be, which is obviously a huge part of his game. So these are the things that, when you're going in blind, you don't know what to expect. But when you've done it before, you at least got an indicator of how you can come back. And his mindset seems pretty positive, so I think he'll come back all right.
Sounds very positive. If the rumours are true that he was already, with I think a year left on his contract or something, talking about trying to get an extension on his contract already.
Yeah, well,
that shows big confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does. So he's obviously prepared to put in the hard yards there with the rehab for sure. But just on Hodges, it also gives the Broncos a chance to sort of play footy without him.
Yeah.
And to sort of work on their combinations and their gameplay without Hodges, because I think sometimes there probably is a little bit of an over-reliance on Hodges when they attack. Simply a case of, shift it wide to Hodges and he'll put something on sort of thing. So it gives them a chance to develop without him, and then if he comes back in, it's a massive boost, obviously.
And one thing with sport is every time a star goes down, someone else comes up and takes the place. So there's room for someone else to make a name for themselves at the Broncos over the next 12 months or so while Justin Hodges is recovering. The other game last night, of course, South Sydney 22 defeating Manly 10. Two top four sides that will finish in that top four. South Sydney, they haven't won a premiership in over 30 years. Ethan James, can they do it this year?
Of course they can. They're probably looking a little bit shakier now than they did a few weeks ago when they were, firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
They've been without Inglis and Sutton the past few weeks. But
Sam Burgess this week.
For reasons which we should talk about. Or
Craig, what did you make of the suspension of Sam Burgess, the dub squirrel grip? What did you make of it?
Oh, look, I think probably the worst thing about it wasn't in a packed situation. It was isolated. You could really see it. We talk about, and we'll talk about it later, about the Essendon Football Club taking the game into disrepute. That's what I say. It's not something that you expect in the game, especially how should I say it, in a Manly game that the rugby league is. This is an area you don't need to know, and we know with Hopewadi what happened there and all that sort of situation. It didn't go over too well. So look, it was a mind explosion. There's no ifs or buts. Why he did it is totally in his mind. He has apologised. He's got regret for it. But
it was a little bit below the belt, wasn't it? Darren Madigan, did you think 2 weeks was a fair enough suspension for him?
I was just going to say, Craig, don't you miss the good old days when we used to sort this out ourselves on the field?
I mean, he wasn't in a condition to do anything.
Mate, I was in that position when I was 16. I was playing senior footy, and I actually came off the field and told the boys what happened.
Yep.
And some of the senior guys in the team actually took care of him in the next quarter. That's what we used to do. 2 weeks for doing that. There are certain things in footy that I've talked about down through the years, like elbows and stuff like that, my little hidden code that I talk about in football that we don't tolerate. That's one of them. And no, I don't think 2 weeks is enough, because you can't allow that sort of thing to happen. To me, it's up there with what Hopewadi did.
Yeah, it was terrible. Look, he's apologised since, but there's no question it was a brain explosion. It was grubby and it was unnecessary. So he deserved to be suspended. That's where it stands. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. Let's look at the rest of the round. Canberra Raiders taking on the Bulldogs this afternoon at Canberra Stadium. Before we get to this game, mate, a lot of talk with Benny Barber during the week. He went on TV, basically announced to the world that he wants to go to Brisbane. He wants out of the Bulldogs because his ex-partner is moving up to Brisbane with his children. What do we think? This release on compassionate grounds is what he's seeking. Craig, what would you make of this as a coach, with your star player wanting to leave on compassionate grounds?
Look, probably different codes situation. I have a bit of a problem with the NRL and how people defect quite easily. They put in for knowing halfway through a season you're going to be in another club. I can't see how actual players can play with that. But anyway, that's an AFL thing. That's something I've grown up with. But look, contracts are contracts as far as I'm concerned. You take everything good and you take everything bad with it, but you agree to it.
Yeah.
I don't think there should be a guideline to it. Like, we're not talking that we're travelling hours and hours to go and see a partner. No. Like, it's 2 hours in a plane. If you need to go and see your partner, or whatever the case may be, you can still do it, knowing that in a couple of years that will be open, to be cleared. I think, everyone does contracts in good faith, and you agree to it through management. I think he has got an obligation to the Bulldogs to stay there and honour it. And maybe I'm old school, but I think if you do it, you go into it, the ramifications of it.
Anthony Milford also, he's been a great star for the Raiders, a Logan boy. He's also seeking release on compassionate grounds from the Raiders. He's got an ill father. Two players, both of them heavily touted to be at the Broncos if they get those releases. Ethan, if they were to make it to the Broncos, how big a boost would it be to have those two?
Yeah, obviously a fairly big boost to the side. It's just a matter of where they play. I mean, we've seen Ben Hunt sort of take a bit of a liking there to the halfback spot. I don't think Wallace will be there next season. Prince is probably on the outer as well, so there'll be a few spots open there in the halves. Josh Hoffman, of course, has come out and said, that he wants to keep that fullback spot. So there's going to be a race on for that position as well if Barber does find his way to
just on that, would Barber also be looking for an opportunity to play in another position, if he was to go to the Broncos, to open up the state of origin possibility to him? Is there any possibility of that? Because at the moment he's touted as one of the great fullbacks of the competition. If he could say, right, I'll go the Broncos, who knows, this is all innuendo, is that he offers him a position in the halves or somewhere else that he could slot into a position in the state of origin, because he'd have to be sitting there going, how can I get in there?
Well, I think the problem there is if they move him to the halves, he's still at best fourth in line behind Cronk, Jonathan Thurston, Daly Cherry Evans, if he was to move there and set the world on fire. So I don't know that would be his motivation. And I think if they bought Ben Barber, they wouldn't want him defending in the front line. They'd have him at fullback, and they'd probably move Milford into the halves is the way it would go there. But we're running out of time on this discussion, so we'll need a tip from you, Ethan. Canberra Raiders up against the Bulldogs at Canberra Stadium.
Well, I'll say Canberra, purely on the basis of the fact that they're playing at home, but no real confidence in them.
That's it. The Cowboys tonight up against the Titans, 1300 Smile Stadium, 5:30pm. Both of these teams in with a chance to make the finals. This is an important game.
It is, and geez, haven't the Cowboys woken up?
Haven't they? Why?
Where have they been? They've been sleeping. Majority of the season, but they're on a bit of a roll now, and I think they're up in Townsville. I think they'll get this one. The Titans had a good win over Canterbury on the road last weekend, and it's sort of the tipping point for both team seasons. A win here will, keep them in finals contention, while a loss probably rules either team out. So massive match here for the two Queensland sides. I'm liking the Cowboys at home. Their form has been good.
They are absolutely firing the last few weeks, the Cowboys. And they run home. They got the Titans at home tonight. They got the Knights at home next week. They got the Sharks away after that. And then the Tigers at home in the final round. They're all winnable games for the Cowboys. If they win all 4 games, they'll finish on 28 points, and they very well could make the 8. Darren Madigan is a North Queenslander. I'm sure that's exciting and frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, frustrating. Obviously, they've obviously sacked the coach as well, which doesn't help. But, there'd be an element, if they do make the finals, there'd be an element of I told you so for Neil Henry. The Cowboys are already being reported as looking for jobs and post-football opportunities right now for Matty Bowen. So, obviously, there's a lot of deep talks that have gone on with that. Can you imagine a Matty Bowen, Jonathan Thurston combination and everything leading into finals, knowing that this is it for him? I mean, he would just be playing out of his skin. And Matt Bowen playing the football of his life, if his body allows it to, in a final series, means the Cowboys would be a very dangerous team to be playing in the finals, and they could cause a lot of havoc.
If the Cowboys sneak into 8th, they're that side that nobody else wants to be playing in the semi-finals. It'll be very dangerous. They'd be on the back of 5 or 6 straight. They'd be very dangerous. So if they can sneak in, who knows what they can do. Let's look at the rest of the round now. The Dragons up against the Sharks at Wynn Stadium tonight, 7:30pm. Give us a tip.
Yeah, probably have to say the Sharks in this one. Their forward pack's probably their strength. I think the Dragons have got a few out as well with Josh Dugan, and I think also Trent Merrin out injured. So the Dragons down on troops, and the Sharks probably looking to cement their spot in the 8. So I think they'll get up there.
Night Storm at Hunter Stadium tomorrow afternoon, 3pm.
Yeah, Melbourne to keep on rolling, I reckon. They've sort of rebounded or got through that origin period, pretty well compared to even last year when they had a big losing streak. So they're in a really good shape, really good shape this Melbourne this year, and I think they'll keep going.
They look ominous to me, Melbourne. They'll keep rolling. The Warriors up against the Panthers Sunday afternoon at 4pm at Mount Smart Stadium.
Yeah, I'd have to say the Warriors there at home, but funnily enough, the last time they played earlier this year, Penrith put a big score on them, so it's sort of hard to tell with these two teams. They're a bit inconsistent, but Warriors there over in New Zealand, they've probably got a bit too much strike power.
They need to win too to stay in touch with the 8. And then final match of the round, the West Tigers up against the Roosters, Allianz Stadium, Monday Night Football, 7pm.
Could be ugly this one.
Could be ugly.
Tigers has sort of come out and said that it hurts seeing his old side doing so well, and I reckon he could be in for a bit more pain on Monday. Roosters are pretty slick. Tigers are in all sorts.
It's got the potential to be a long night for the Tigers, that one. Let's look at that ladder. The Roosters out on top. Then we've got the Rabbitohs, the Seagulls, the Storm, who have a chance to go past the Seagulls with the win this weekend. Then we got 5-point break down to the rest of the comp. There's a big gap between the top 4 and the rest. Then the Bulldogs, the Sharks, the Knights, the Titans is the top 8. Then hanging on the fringes, we've got the Raiders, the Broncos, the Warriors, the Cowboys, the Panthers, then the Dragons, the Tigers, and the Eels. We'll take a break here on SportzScene. We come back, we'll talk some Bledisloe Cups, so stay with us.
Well, man's not a camel. Whose shout is it? Not mine. Yours, I reckon.
Oh, is it? Hang on, a cab's here.
What? You got your own driver?
Well, may as well have. All yellows do it when you use your mobile. SMS on approach. See ya.
I know what SMS on approach means. Skip my shout. SMS on approach. It's the new buzz around town. From Yellow Cabs, of course. Phone 13 Cabs or go to yellowcab.com.au for more information.
Your station sponsor.
Life. Life is for living. So live it. Life. Life is for giving. So give it. Giving blood is cool. Needing it isn't. Red Cross. Give a little. Life is for living. Life is for giving. Help save lives. Please give blood.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had a chicken, E-I-E-I-O.
The farms where most of our egg products come from aren't what they used to be. Across Australia, 11 million hens are still confined to the misery of battery cages. Please, don't buy into cruelty. Help Animals Australia put an end to factory farming.
Be a voice for animals at animalsaustralia.org.
101 FM.
And now it's back to Saturday SportzScene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to SportzScene here on 101 FM. It's 11 minutes to 9. Your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Just a reminder, the 101 FM barbecue team will be out this Saturday cooking up a storm at Office Works on Compton Road. Come down and say hi and grab yourself a burger and drink and support Logan City's very own radio station, your station, 101 FM. All right, let's move on to the world of rugby union now. The Bledisloe Cup gets underway tonight. The Aussies looking to break a 10-year streak without winning the Cup. And Ewan McKenzie, he's named a new-look Wallabies side, very different to the side that we saw run out against the British and Irish Lions. Let's take a look at it. James Slipper, Stephen Moore, Ben Alexander is the front row. And all Queensland second row with Rob Simmons and James Horwill. Hugh McMiniman, Michael Hooper and Ben Moen are the loose forwards. In the halves, Will Genia, Matt Tamua makes his debut at 10, getting the spot ahead of Quade Cooper. On the wings, James O'Connor returns to the wing after spending the whole Lions series at 10, and Israel Folau there on the wing as well. In the centres, Christian Liliafano, Adam Ashley Cooper, and Jesse Mogg at fullback. Guys, I really like this side. I think there's a lot of points in it. I think we're going to see a very different style of football. The big talking point, of course, Matt Tamua getting the spot ahead of Quade Cooper. Were we expecting Quade Cooper to get that spot? What do we think?
Yeah, look, I think there was some expectations there simply from the Ewan McKenzie factor. I think it's great that he's gone with the guy who's obviously in a side that was the best of the Australian sides this year with the Brumbies and that. And I mean, hey, isn't it good to see a coach not letting emotion get in the way? I mean, we've spent the last year or so dealing with that, especially with Quade Cooper and all that sort of stuff. I think we were expecting Cooper to go in and answer to your question, but I think the right decision's been made.
Yeah, I'm all for it. And Cooper's on the bench as well. He'll get his time to come in and make an impact. And Matt Tamua has been outstanding this season. We said it last week. Look, we couldn't really lose because they're both good options, I think. Tamua's got outstanding, not just strong defence, he's got outstanding defence. So that's probably the thing that also got him across the line. He can attack and defend just as well. The move for James O'Connor from 10 onto the wing. This guy copped a lot of criticism, not only for his on-field performances, but his off-field behaviour as well. It's a bit of a crossroads for him now, isn't it, Craig? A guy at 23 years old with his talent. How important for him? He hasn't got a contract for next year at this stage yet. How important is it for him to perform in this series?
Well, it's really important in the way of his contract for his club level. Probably the biggest thing that I can see out of him in this regard, obviously when Robbie Deans was coaching, they did have a lot of injuries. We can't deny that fact through his tenure as coach. But in saying that, it kind of was just a case of let's put him in to fill spots, and he really did plug up a lot of holes. I think we'll probably see the best of him here because he's back to probably where he is more confident, can play his role better, and hence he, like Ewan McKenzie, for the man that he is, you can see he's a sort of bloke that won't take too much trouble off the ground. Yeah. So he's probably saying, and I reckon he's, from what I can gather as a coach, he's a great negotiator. He's probably spoken to Cooper about his role in as the number 10. He goes, well, look, you still owe us a little bit because of your antics. Okay, we'll put you in the side, and when you get your chance, you can go. And I reckon that's probably happened the same as Connors in the fact that, right, okay, you get your stuff right off the field, I'll give you your opportunity. So I reckon he's really smart in that regard, how he manages his players. Instead of, unfortunately, Robbie Dean's throwing players all over the park just didn't work for him, and it just unsettled the group. And we knew why he was doing it because of the amount of injuries. But I think at the end of the day, I think we've got a pretty healthy list. It looks so. And
absolutely,
one thing I'll just touch on, the other thing about everyone's expecting, wow, we're going to go into this and win the game. Look, you still got to remember where we're at. We're still behind the All Blacks, at world level. They've got to grind this down. If they just want to be really, really competitive, hopefully they get a win. Don't get me wrong, I want them to win. But the thing is, they've got to make an input. It's very similar to the Australian cricket side. They've just got to be competitive. They've just got to start making statements, and eventually they'll grind it down. And I hope to God everyone's not thinking, oh, beauty, change a coach, change the situation. It might not be that. You've got to be really stable in what we're about.
The other thing too, Craig, is we've got to play running rugby and score tries because we will not win a kicking competition against the All Blacks.
I agree totally, mate. I think attack, and I think that's the team that they've picked for it, mate. You look at that back three of O'Connor, Israel Folau, Jesse Mogg. There is a lot of points there. Christian Liliafano, Adam Ashley Cooper, of course, very good in the centres too. So, look, Israel Folau, Ethan, of course, retained on the wing after an outstanding Lions series. Part of me would love to have seen him at fullback, but of course, to get all three of those guys in, it's perfect. How exciting is it to see rugby, to see Israel Folau running out in the Bledisloe game?
Yeah, very exciting. And who would have thought a few years ago that we'd see Israel Folau, sort of take the journey that he's taken, through the AFL and then to the rugby union. But just on the Wallabies as a whole, I think it's sort of, or viewed from the fans and the rugby community, is sort of almost the change of coach is sort of like a wiping the slate sort of clean type scenario. And I think fans are prepared to probably be a little bit patient with this side. I think so. It's a young side obviously there with Tamua there in the number 10 jersey, but I think we'll see sort of a change in sort of the way that the Australian team's going to play the rugby, and I think the fans are prepared to probably be a little bit patient with that and sort of see the side evolve. I agree. There's a very strong flavour of the Brumbies and the Reds throughout the team, guys. James Slipper heading into starting a prop, I think it's a good move. Rob Simmons in the back row is nice as well. Hugh McMiniman from Western Force, it's great to see him there in the starting side as well. So we'll wait and see how they go up against the New Zealanders. They, of course, will be without Dan Carter, which is a big loss, but they come in with a bloke named Aaron Cruden, who's very, very good as well, of course, winning back-to-back championships with the Chiefs, so they don't lose too much there. The big thing they lose there is Dan Carter's exceptional kicking game. The big loss for them really is Liam Messam at 6. He's a big loss for him in the forwards, but Richie McCaw will be there. He will start and he will captain the side. He's missed a lot of this season. Darren Madigan, most players you'd be worried about how they come into it, but Richie McCaw, such a champion. He probably won't play 80 minutes, but you'd have to think he'll still have an impact. Yeah, he'll have a huge impact. I mean, he's been such a great All Black. And he's leading them, isn't he? I didn't hear at the start of what you were saying there. But, I mean, you need that leadership in the side. They've just been the best side in the world for so long. And, I mean, as I just reiterate what I said before, I mean, their kicking side of things has been so good, but they've also played some great running rugby as well to beat other sides. So, I mean, we aren't going to match them kicking. We've got to score tries. As you quite rightly pointed out, our back three are sensational, but for us to win this match, Israel is going to have to score big time as well. I agree totally, and he's going to maybe even outpoint the other Israel in the game, Israel Dag, who's an absolute superstar there for the All Blacks. That is, of course, tonight at ANZ Stadium. Looking forward to that one. It's 4 minutes to 9 here on SportzScene on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, Craig Crowley, all here with you. Let's talk briefly about the cricket before we go to the news, guys. Of course, Australia batting collapse in the final innings of that
fourth test over there in England. It was looking good at one stage there. Warner and Rogers got away to a good start in that final innings, but as too often happens, the middle order collapsed and it was all over in a session, Craig. It was hard to watch.
Yeah, it is. Look, I don't think we take a real lot away from the English bowlers. They bowled extremely.
Broad was fantastic.
He was. The ball that got Clark, no batsman would have got near.
It was fantastic.
And look, when you got the start that we got, you're probably hanging your hat on Clark to come in and just get through the rest of the game with the tail enders and the middle order. But, technique's probably got us a little bit again, walking across the crease, the LBWs that we've got, Haddon and Watson both going the same way. But these are the guys that normally you would have said after the start we got, which has always been our problem of recent times, you thought, well, we're right here. And we can't get 100% commitment from all our players, and still relying on our batsmen to get us over the line, the bowlers to get us over the line.
It is disappointing, but in the first innings, positives there. Chris Rogers and a fantastic knock, getting his first Test century, well deserved to a guy at his age. It was fantastic, and Shane Watson batting down the order, really valuable 68 there in that first innings. It was good to see them. I like the idea of having him down at 6. It's something I would have liked to see in a while. So it was good to see him get some runs as well. But I guess the biggest positive coming out of that Test match was the performances of Ryan Harris and Nathan Lyon with the ball. They were outstanding.
Yeah, I'm an unashamed fan of Nathan Lyon. He sort of typifies the no fuss type sort of character and player. I mean, he's been in and out of the Australian side probably a hell of a lot more than he should have been. He seems to get dropped at the drop of a hat almost for left arm spinners who can turn the ball away, who don't end up taking many wickets. But he bowled exceptionally well. They tried to get after him, which they did to a little bit of success, but he ended up taking a few wickets. And I think he took 4 in the first.
Four in the first and 3 in the second.
Which first innings. For a finger spinner to take 4 wickets in the first innings is a really good effort, and hats off to him.
And Ryan Harris, he missed the first Test. He's missed a lot of cricket over the last couple of years with injuries, but how good was he?
Just fantastic. And I mean, Harris is very much in that Siddle category. I mean, as a captain, you can call upon him to keep working and working. Unfortunately, his body doesn't always stick up for him as much as we'd like to see. But if we take a look at the tour game overnight, England Lions are currently 7 for 269. We have we're resting Harris. We've got Stark, Faulkner, both playing. Lyon, they're giving a run again.
Got to catch it off there, mate. We've got to go to the news. We'll be back straight after the news. Stay with us here on SportzScene.
Your station, 101 FM, with Saturday Sports Scene.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM, 5 minutes past 9. Kevin Braysher here with you. Darren Madigan's with us. So is Ethan James, Craig Crowley. Let's get into it all. As we were talking just before the news, we're talking a little bit of cricket, mate. Darren Madigan, continue.
Yeah, sorry about that. I lost track of the time. Right. But Nathan Lyon is being given a go, as well as Ashton Agar in the same match alongside one another. And most of the Test sides in there. I mean, Warner's opening by the looks of things. Watson down the order. Phillip Hughes is his partner. And obviously Chris Rogers is being given a well-earned rest as well. Usman Khawaja, who probably of all the top order is the guy who really needs to score runs more than anybody, sitting there at number 3. So really he needs to score some big runs. Now, I can tell you too, an interesting little fact here. The New South Wales Cricket Association lose a lot of cricketers to England during the course of the year, like a lot of the associations around the country. It's just that so many more people play in that state. And Cricket Australia are looking at trying to figure out a way to bring Middlesex opener Sam Robson back. Now, he's 24 years old. He's Sydney-born. And at the moment, he's just about the best performer in county cricket at the moment. 933 runs, 300s this year for Middlesex. He's averaging 62. The plan being to bring him back, get him into the system and see what happens, but at least keep him away from the England selectors. So, and he wouldn't be the only cricketer in that situation. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Cricket Australia and how they whether they start to put these things in place over the next few years to start bringing some of our cricketers that do play league cricket and county cricket and all that sort of stuff over in England, and just making sure they remain Australian.
They want to get him stitched up before the home Ashes series too. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the feeling. They're looking, putting that that plan in place. And at 24 years of age, this is fair income stuff. I mean, you and I have talked about Simon Kadich and other players that are in their 30s and all that sort of stuff. But this is a 24-year-old kid who's averaging 62 for a very good team in the county system. So, this isn't a muck around. This is fair income stuff, and they're hoping to try and possibly even have him playing against England this summer.
Fingers crossed, because the last thing we'd want is to see him scoring centuries against us in the home Ashes series. That's the last thing we'd need as Australian cricket fans. We'll leave the cricket there for now. The fifth test, of course, will get underway during the week. It's time now to talk some Aussie rules football, and boy, there's plenty to talk about. We'll start with the NEAFL before we move on to the AFL world. And during the week, it was announced, the restructure of the competition was announced. I would just take a look at what the teams that will be playing there. There will be 4 in the new NEAFL starting next season. Essentially, at the moment, there's a 2-conference system. There's a Northern Conference and an Eastern Conference. That will be merged as one, and the following teams will be there'll be 4 teams from the ACT: Ainslie, Belconnen, Eastlake, Queanbeyan. 2 teams from New South Wales, the Hills Eagles and Sydney University. 3 from South East Queensland, Aspley, Redlands and Southport. 1 from the Northern Territory, the NT Thunder. 4 AFL reserve teams, the Sydney Swans, the GWS Giants, the Brisbane Lions and the Gold Coast Suns. And this is according to the website, a licence application for a North Queensland team is currently under review, with the outcome to be announced shortly. Craig Crowley, I'll ask you first. First of all, with the South East Queensland team, any surprises on the ones that are there?
No, look, realistically, at the end of the day, look, I'm a bit disappointed in the fact that Morningside never got the opportunity, but I think there was a 5-point criteria that had to be met, and Morningside couldn't meet that criteria, unfortunately, so they opted out pretty early in the situation. And the reason I say it's pretty sad, even though they're our arch rivals, unfortunately, that brings an end to the Brisbane or the old QAFL situation. We obviously come into it in 1983, but Morningside was the last of all the other sides that were involved in that. So it's a bit of a shame in that regard. And the other side, obviously disappointing, because they have been successful. They're still, not easy beats by any stretch of the imagination. They had a lean year, I think, last year, but they've always been up there, regardless of the financial status of the club. So, look, it's really disappointing in that regard, but there was a criteria had to be met, and obviously they couldn't meet it.
Darren Madigan, the North Queensland team, just fill us in with the situation there. With the license, as I said just then, a license application for a North Queensland team is currently under review, with the outcome to be announced shortly. What does that mean? Yeah,
well, the original thoughts were that it was already done and dusted, and the Northern Territory and North Queensland were absolute morals, and the rest of the teams had to figure it all out from there. But the situation now, obviously, there's been some sort of spanner in the works. My guess is that the original Townsville idea, with a number of PNG players in there as well as locals and all that sort of thing, has hit a bit of a roadblock, and possibly they're looking at Cairns. Cairns Post this morning are actually reporting that they feel that the team is going to end up in Cairns at Australian Football Park, which, whilst being a Townsville boy, I'd love to see the game being played at Riverway in Townsville. You can't go past the fact that the facilities in Cairns are just top notch, and it'd be a great advertisement for the game, and it's also a great melting pot for the different ethnicities that play our national game as well up here. So my feeling at the moment is that the end result will probably be a team that's based out of Cairns, and whether it happens in 2013 or they hold off until the following year, we will know very, very soon.
Craig Crowley, you're of course with the Southport Sharks. As someone who's involved with the week-to-week playing in the competition, how do you feel about this new structure and the fact that there's 3 South East Queensland teams? That means there's going to be a lot more travel on you guys. How do you feel about it?
Oh, look, it's the way football's going. We've sort of been spoon-fed in it to a little bit with the NT Thunder, the crossover conference games, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, we are becoming a little bit more accustomed to it. The timing, I suppose, on these games will the biggest thing is, because we are semi-professional footballers, is the availability of time off. So it's all got to be done over the weekend period, late Friday, possibly getting in Saturday, going home Sunday. It makes it for a very, very, I don't know, I'm pretty well married in my life, but for young families, it's going to be pretty hard and arduous. But I think the travel side of it, I think we'll be up to speed. We're not travelling great distances. It's only to Sydney, so it's not a long time. NT is always the hardest one. But look, I think it's all good for the competition. I think if we're going to get support from the AFL, which we will, I would suggest we would heavily get support. Because it's bringing up the pathway, getting more quality footballers to the competition, to get us more in line with the southern states, to be more competitive, obviously creating that opportunity for more players. As you can understand, and most of the listeners would know of the influx of mature age rookies that are coming into the competition now. This will just enhance that, getting more players from around the area, giving more people exposure at the best possible level.
Just on the teams that didn't make the cut here in South East Queensland, Craig, what happens to them now? Where do they play? Teams like Morningside and all that?
Well, there'll be Broadbeach, Labrador, Morningside, Mount Gravatt that'll fall out of the competition. I don't think there's any more that I can think of. But there's also, over the years, there's been a lot of sides that have also fallen out and have been in a strong competition in the Pineapple Cup. What I would suggest will happen, I think these teams that are going out of the NEFL competition at the moment are still going to be strong. So it's going to actually bring the next level. There is word on the draw. I think it's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we'll talk to Craig Miller about it in the coming weeks, about the next competition and what that competition is going to be. Obviously, I would not be surprised if there was a criteria pretty similar, but not as high, for them to come in. So once again, you might end up with what you would have as an old AFLQ competition, with the Sandgates and the like coming back in, and sides that could facilitate a standard of football. It's going to be still really good. So all in all, the whole competition lives through everything. So I think, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a real teething period for the first couple of years. But I think for football in general, for the competition of South East Queensland, I think it's going to be really, really encouraging.
Well, that was what I was about to ask you with that one, Craig. Heading into next season, are you excited about the changes, and do you think it's going to be a good direction for the game?
I think it's going to be a tremendous direction. And the thing is, as most people know, we have got the Southport Football Club, for example, have got a relationship with the Suns, and we always wanted to have an AFL licence, but for reasons out of our control, we couldn't have that. So by us having the best possible side in this Eastern Conference competition is probably another step up for us as well. And I would suggest, the Redlands Football Club and Aspley Football Club would be in the same boat. So it's really profiling their club, it's profiling the competition. Sure. We're getting out there amongst it, and it's really, really, we're identifying the sides that can be, teams to go to up in the north, in probably the better climate, that players from even down south who might not be getting their fair share of game time can come up here now as an opportunity to still get recognised for AFL football.
That's it. Darren Madigan, before we move away from this topic and move on to some tips and everything, any other final news or comments from you?
No, I just think it's great that they're finally getting it sorted. I mean, we've wanted that great second tier in the eastern and northern states for a long time. I think the story of football over the past 18 months, and I keep saying it, is Aspley. It wasn't that long ago that when we were at Springwood, we were playing against them in the Pineapple Hotel Cup, and we were beating them, and they were just another club. And look at where they are now. And the reflection of the three leagues clubs, for want of a better phrase, is reflected, I think, in the financial position and where these three clubs that have entered the competition. So I think it's fantastic, and I just hope we get this North Queensland thing sorted out, because once that happens, it's the dot on the map that needs to be filled. And I'm ad nauseum about this. We have this amazing facility sitting up here in Cairns not being used properly, and I want to see it used.
All right, let's move on to some tips now for the final round of the NEFL. A fair bit of competition there for that fifth spot, isn't there, mate? With, of course, NT Thunder along with Redlands and Morningside there fighting out for that spot. A lot of big games. Let's get to them. The Brisbane Lions up against the UWS Giants. First of all, 1 p.m. this afternoon down at Yeronga. Well,
once again, I think their list is pretty strong at the moment, Lions, so they're going along. How the situation that's just occurred in the last week with the Lions is going to act on them, I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I think you'll find they'll just keep going along the way they are. They're pretty professional unit, and obviously last year winning the premiership, they haven't fallen off at all. So I think they're going to go a long way in the final series up here, and I think they'll be too strong for them today.
Broadbeach up against the Gold Coast Suns, 1:30 p.m. this afternoon at Broadbeach.
Suns are in the finals. I know for a fact they're very hamstrung with injuries at the moment. They're not playing a lot of listed players. So this is a great opportunity to Broadbeach to finish their season on a high. And I think they will do it. I think they're the reserve grade are going into the finals, so they've got an opportunity to still stay alive. So it's a great opportunity to probably give their kids an opportunity in the senior game against the Suns, and I reckon Broadbeach will be too strong.
Labrador up against Morningside at Labrador this afternoon, 1:30 p.m.
Yeah, well, for the reasons you brought out before, Morningside have to win to keep their hopes alive. They can only control what they can control. And Labrador, unfortunately, it's been a pretty poor season for them, and they will be first to agree with that. I think they'll be just looking for a good showing this, the last game of the year. But Morningside will be too strong.
Redlands up against Southport this afternoon at Redlands, 1:30 p.m.
Well, this is obviously the big one, isn't it? Because Redlands, you're probably looking at two form sides of the last half of the season. Redlands are really on top of their game, playing extremely good football, and we're fully aware of that. We can't lose second spot. We've decided to rest a few of our players, not a lot, just the older players. So there's a couple missing, and an opportunity to see Stephen Mills play his first senior game as well. So we want to keep winning. It's as simple as that. Yeah. We think we can, but Redlands will be doing everything they possibly can to stop that, and they need to win to stay in the finals race. So,
looking at the percentages there, they're on equal points with Morningside. You assume Morningside's probably going to beat Labrador today. Redlands, they need to win, and they need to win by enough points to get their percentage up, don't they?
Well, they do. Exactly right. So, look, we're expecting a beauty, and it will be a great game. I think it's streamed through on the NEFL website. So for people who can't get to the game, have a good look. They're a great side playing at their home ground, but in a close one, I think we'll get over.
And the final match of the round, NT Thunder up against Aspley. That is tonight, 7 p.m, TIO Stadium. NT Thunder, long odds for them. They probably need the two sides above them, Morningside and Redlands, to lose, but they need a big win tonight.
Well, yeah, they do. They have to finish off this season. Look, every other season they've played up in Darwin, they've been hard to beat, but we've taken the opportunity this year for a lot of sides to actually beat them up at TIO Stadium. So it's not the fortress it used to be. They've got some great players in their group. They've just got to get it all together. And look, they're hanging their hats on. They need to win the game to stay in the race for the finals with the other two sides losing. So, yeah, look, it's a hard one. But Aspley are playing pretty good footy as well. So in a close game, geez, won't hang the hat. I'll go with Aspley.
All right, Nat Gravatt have the bye in the final round of the competition for this year, the regular season. Take a look at the ladder. The Brisbane Lions will finish on top. Southport will finish second. We've got Aspley, Gold Coast Suns, Morningside. That's the top five at the moment. Redlands, NT Thunder, Broadbeach, Mount Gravatt, Labrador. We'll take a break here on SportzScene. When we come back, we'll discuss the world of AFL. There's plenty to talk about.
Hi, Steve Karen Lawyers. If you need to sue an insurance company, call Karen Lawyers. We act no win, no fee, no litigation loans. Call 1300 Lawyer, 1300 529 937, or go to karenlawyers.com.au.
Your station sponsor.
Life. Life is for living. So live it. Life. Life is for giving. So give it. Giving blood is cool. Needing it isn't. Red Cross. Give a little. Life is for living. Life is for giving. Help save lives. Please give blood.
G'day. Con again, remember? Air conditioner. We know that Nick from Marshall Air Conditioning and Refrigeration is damn good at his job, but sometimes the unthinkable happens. Just last week, Kel from production just ran out of wind. Sadly, Nick had to let him go to that great big cooler in the sky. But before you could say inverter, Nick was installing a brand new model. Boy, he's fast, and Kelly's not a bad looker either. So for sales, service and installation in all areas, call Nick anytime. 0417 715 137.
Your station sponsor. 101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Craig Crowley, Ethan James, all still here with you, taking you through to 10 o'clock. Just a reminder, the 101 FM barbecue team will be out this Saturday cooking up a storm at Office Works on Compton Road. Come down and say hi and grab yourself a burger and a drink and support Logan City's very own radio station, your station, 101 FM. It's time now to talk about the world of Australian rules football, the AFL now, guys, and some big news during the week. We'll start with the Brisbane Lions, who decided that this will be the last season that Michael Voss will coach the side. Craig Crowley, what were your thoughts when this first broke?
Well, no different to any other person in the AFL. I think a bit shocked. It's always a hard gig when your favourite son, well, as actually the reporters have said, the son, not the favourite son,
the only,
gets the flick. But unfortunately, in the board's wisdom, they obviously thought that it wasn't going in the right direction. The progress hadn't been there, which I were hoping for. I actually think the last two seasons, at the back half of the year, the Lions have actually done exceptionally well. If you can remember last year, they really come home with a flurry against some top sides, and they've done exactly the same thing. But obviously, the board can see some flaws there, and obviously can't see Michael Voss taking him through to the next level. In saying that, with the list they have, I don't know who probably could, because apart from having some really good kids, they lack probably genuine forwards. They have to do a lot of recruiting. They've got to look at their list management, which is significant. Obviously, Voss had a few failures in bringing up Favola and a few others that just didn't meet the club's criteria, and fell through the cracks. But I think every coach is entitled to some sort of mistakes. You've got to look at the positives and what he's brought out of his youth, and I think they've been tremendous. But every game you coach, I think you're closer to being sacked. The only one exception to that would be Kevin Sheedy. He just seemed to go on forever. But that's reality. And look, it was a shock. And you could see by the players' reaction, it was really kept close to the chest by the board members, even though I think Michael Voss had some sort of insight to what the goings on might be. I think they spoke to him about 6 weeks previous to say they are going to be looking at other coaches, not saying he wasn't in the mix, but they're going to be doing some talking to some coaches, so they let him know well and truly, and then he, I think on his own statement, he's gone, the silence was quite deafening.
Yeah. Look, you normally see when the coaches get the sack from a footy team or a sports team or whatever, it's normally coming at a low point in the year. It sort of feels like the Lions were starting to head on the way up. I think that's part of the reason why it was such a shock that he got the sack now. Yeah,
look, the other thing that probably comes into the fore, if the Lions have an exceptional end of the season and they make the finals,
could be like the Cowboys with Neil Henry.
Yeah, well, exactly. You're exactly right.
Can he reapply? Or
well, that's right. He could. Look, he goes into the finals, maybe wins the first semi.
Sure.
Then all of a sudden, geez, we've made a mistake here, so it's best off to table it, get it out there pretty quick. And look, everyone asks, I suppose, as Ethan did just before, how come they done it at this time, the timing, and purely and simply, obviously with the Melbourne Football Club, the Lions at this stage now, there was a few coaches looking to, a few teams looking for coaches at this stage, and they wanted to probably try to get their best candidate as quickly as they possibly can before it all closed up. So, and we know the names that have been banded around. Paul Roos is the obvious one, but Mark Williams is one. Neil Craig's another. So there's a lot of names getting around. Mark Harvey said he wouldn't do it. Whether he would change his tune or apply for the job, you don't know. So look, there are some good candidates out there. It's just a matter of finding out who will be the best. And I think Roos's connection with being a life member of the Fitzroy Lions is probably, he can identify that. And if you can read between the lines and you listen to the way he speaks, and you listen during the course of the year how he would definitely not coach Melbourne. He's not into coaching. There was a little bit of a breaking in his armour there to a certain extent when they spoke about the possibility of coaching the Brisbane Lions.
Darren, what do you think in terms of who Brisbane should be chasing next?
Well, obviously, Roos is, number one if you can get him. He's proven himself as a very, very good coach. And God knows Brisbane have a lot of work to do. I'm not overly impressed with the way Brisbane have gone about doing this. I mean, there wasn't a lot to be achieved publicly to do this to one of their legends that couldn't have been done at the end of the season. I'm not shocked. I didn't think he was going to keep his job, but I'm shocked at the when they've done it. I don't think a couple of rounds left in the season really was necessary, given that they're not playing finals. So once again, crappy way to do it. The only thing that I can say is that possibly, as Craig's pointed out there, maybe they're trying to get somebody on deck beforehand. Maybe they've already signed somebody for all we know. Or they're in the middle of deep negotiations with that person. But, I'm with Craig on this one. I think probably the names that he has mentioned are very good. And, people like Mark Williams, who's out there looking for a position as well, and obviously Roosie. And, look, I don't see why Mark Harvey couldn't, be rehabilitated, so to speak, and come back into the coaching fold, because he's going to spend the last 2 rounds of this season coaching them. So if he manages to get a couple of decent results, why wouldn't he put his hand up?
The bottom line there with the Lions is that Michael Voss, that's the son of the club, really. He's such a beloved figure and an absolute legend of that club. Won't be coaching there next season, and I'm sure a lot of Brisbane Lion fans are very disappointed to see him leave, Michael Voss, after a few years at the club. But there is one other big story we've got to talk about in the AFL this week. Darren Madigan, fill us in with exactly what's going on with the SADA this week.
The love. Alrighty. The interim report was handed down earlier in the week. The AFL have charged the Essendon Football Club, James Hird, the senior coach, the club doctor, Dr. Bruce Reid, the football manager, Danny Corcoran, and assistant coach Mark Thompson under the AFL rules in relation to the supplements program at the club in 2011 and 2012. Now, the club and each of those 4 people, they're all charged with engaging in conduct that is unbecoming or likely to prejudice the interests or the reputation of the Australian Football League, or to bring the game of football into disrepute contrary to Rule 1.6. Now, in a nutshell, what's come out of this so far, with the evidence that they've been able to work with, the players at the moment are clear. There's no doping charges to be laid on the players because there hasn't been enough evidence for them to do so. Nobody is being called a drug cheat in this. That needs to be made very clear. Nobody is being called a drug cheat. What they are doing, what the AFL has said, is that the actions that have taken place have brought the game into disrepute. There will be a hearing held on Monday, the 26th of August at AFL House. At the moment, that is going to happen, but I can tell you now, this is about to, or it already has started, to get very, very nasty. This is going legal, and I would suggest that before that hearing even takes place, you're probably going to see court injunctions and all sorts of things being thrown out. But to make something that's very complicated a lot simpler, the bottom line is the players for the moment are clear. There is no evidence up to date to actually charge any of them. So the people that I have mentioned, plus the club, have been charged with disrepute. Nobody has been charged with being a drug cheat or a doper.
We've got to remember, though, it is an interim report. There will be a final report handed down at a later date. And we've got to remember a certain big player in this, Stephen Dank, hasn't actually been fully interviewed yet, and he will be in the coming weeks as part of the NRL investigation. We're focused on the AFL at the moment. The NRL will get their day, but there will be more to come of this. Craig Crowley, your thoughts on the developments this week?
Well, it's great, first and foremost, that the players are exonerated, I suppose, from this, and I think for the club's benefit, the players can go out and play football. And I think that's been a really hard lot of luggage to carry for so many weeks. The problem is, there is still this the investigation sitting over the club, and I will find. Look, I've always thought in my mind that this will go on long into the finals, so they'll take it as deep as they can into the final, or at least to the first final. And they will put out the handing toll. They will decide whether they lose points. But if the players have done nothing wrong and the players are playing the game for points, the players that the game should not be taken for points. The coaches have done something wrong in bringing it to the game into disrepute.
Yes.
Well, that still has to be. They still have to be convicted of that yet.
Of course.
Yeah.
But the other
They've
thing
been
is
charged.
about it, which is really significant, Darren, is that they will take this as far as they can to the finals. Like I said, the baggage is off the players' back. Hopefully they can go back to playing the brand of football they were playing at the start of the season. And I think you'll find they will take the normal courses legally of this. But as soon as they're out of the finals race, I think you'll find they'll take the gloves off and then they'll just go. They just want to, at this stage, get into the final series. They will drag it on as long as they possibly can. And next thing you know, the Essendon Football Club will either be able to play. Well, they'll play in the finals. They can't take the points off them there because you won't have the ninth side available to play because the finals were already started. And then that'll happen and it'll pan out after that.
Ethan.
Yeah, just from the outside looking, I'm probably not as following it as closely as you have been, Craig and Darren, but have the AFL potentially sort of, with these allegations and charges of bringing the game into disrepute, have they potentially jumped in too early? I mean, it's on the back of an interim report, and as Kev just said, they haven't spoken to Stephen Dank, in depth yet. Have they jumped in too early with this, or how does it?
Well, that's why I reckon they're clean of the drug issue. That was the main concern, where this was going to affect the players. It's just the moral situation, which is really significant now. Have they done the right thing or the wrong thing according to the AFL, rules and regulations? That's where it'll be significant. I know what you're saying at the moment with, if they have come in too early, if it had been a drug situation, they've charged with, taking drugs, then you've got a situation. Then they might have come in too early because they haven't got full information from the sources, as you said, Stephen Dank and so on. But because the players have been cleared of this and there's no allegations of...
Yeah, can we just... sorry, Craig, I don't mean to interrupt you. I do need to jump in here.
Yep.
They're not cleared totally.
No.
All right, this is an interim report, and they reserve the right, should any further evidence come to light that causes charges to be laid, the players could still be in that trouble. At the moment, the evidence that is laid before them that they were able to come up to this point with this interim report says that they can't lay any charges because they don't have the evidence at the moment. Should that evidence come through, and it may not, there may be nothing further that the players have to worry about, but should evidence come to light, there could still be charges laid.
And the situation here, Darren, which is pretty significant, at the time of the players taking the injection, the questioned drug was not on the banned substance list, and that's probably what holds a lot of the clout in this situation. Okay, you got to remember that at that particular time. I know what you're saying. Yes, it is only interim, but what Ethan's saying is 100% right. They wouldn't go out and stick their neck out at this time and do this because it could get even messier.
Yeah,
so that to be pretty strong on what they're saying, I reckon.
I just better add one thing here too. This is the AFL's own press release, so this is from their own words. The AFL also advised that in relation to Essendon players, although WADA has declared AOD-9604 is a banned substance, on the information before the AFL, there is no specific anti-doping rule violation attributed to any individual player for use of AOD 9604 or any other prohibited substance. By the way, for those who don't know, AOD 9604 was apparently, I believe, a failed anti-obesity drug that didn't work or whatever, and the reason it's one of those drugs that hasn't gone through all the systems and all the checks and balances that need to be in for any drug to come into play in Australia. So there is a lot of controversy over that particular drug, but it is a banned substance according to WADA, but there is no evidence to say that anybody has been doping with it.
Fair enough. Look, we'll leave that there for this week. It's a very big, very complicated process that will continue, as you say, probably even beyond the semi-finals. But that's the development so far for this week. We've got to quickly go through some tips. You're listening to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Craig Crowley, Ethan James with you. Darren, we'll start with you this afternoon. Richmond up against Carlton at the MCG.
Yeah, baby. What can I say? This is the second biggest rivalry in football as far as I'm concerned. The other one's Carlton-Collingwood, which is the biggest. These are our arch rivals, and for the first time in years, we can actually beat them. And you think Richmond fans aren't really happy about that. Look, the belief in the club, I keep saying it every week, is huge. I cannot stress highly enough how big that win against Hawthorn was. It was massive. Craig and I talked a few weeks ago about how Richmond hadn't beaten anybody above them yet, and he was quite right. Well, it finally happened, and they took the biggest scalp of all. So, look, at the moment, I mean, obviously I'm not going to tip against them. At the G, if they don't get 80,000 plus for this, I'll be surprised.
All right, Craig. Port Adelaide up against the Gold Coast Suns this afternoon at AAMI Stadium down there in South Australia.
Oh, yes. All go down to South Australia to play either of the two sides down there, Port Adelaide especially. Going to be very, very hard. It was quite strange to see Gary Ablett last week not getting as many touches against the bottom side as you would have thought, but obviously well done to the Melbourne Football Club on doing that. With Port Adelaide going out to play their own game, you'll see him free up a little bit. He'll be back to his best this week. We'll go for an upset win here in the Gold Coast Suns.
Essendon Kangaroos, 4:40pm this afternoon at Etihad Stadium. Darren?
Oh, gee, Essendon are in fits and starts at the moment. I'm going to tip North in an upset.
All right, Brisbane Lions up against GWS Giants at the Gabba tonight, Craig, 7:40pm.
I don't think it mattered who the Lions were playing. You know what always happens when they sack a coach? They get up and win. So I won't even question it. Also, the fact that GWS aren't probably at the standard of the Lions at the moment. But, yep, sack a coach, they win a game.
Lock it in.
Lions unbackable favourites tonight. West Coast Eagles up against the Geelong Cats, Patterson Stadium. That's tonight, 7:40pm Queensland time, Darren.
West Coast Eagles at home, always very strong, but I'm not going to tip against Geelong.
Melbourne up against Freo Sunday afternoon, Craig, at the MCG, 1:10pm.
I'll just say the Melbourne woes will continue. They'll be looking towards next year with their new coach.
Darren Madigan, Sydney Swans up against St Kilda, 3:20pm at the SCG tomorrow.
Oh, Swannies by a mile. It's not going to be pretty.
And final match of the round, the Western Bulldogs up against the Adelaide Crows, 4:40pm at Etihad Stadium.
This will be a good game. The Bullies have just come into their own in the last couple of weeks, and they've shown some really good signs. And Adelaide are probably, as one of your sayings there, spits and spurts. I think they come and go. Good one week, bad the next, and I reckon this is the week they're going to be bad, and I reckon the Doggies will run all over them.
We'll take a look at the AFL ladder now. Hawthorn on top, followed by Geelong, Sydney. Fremantle is the top four. Richmond in fifth. Collingwood, Essendon, Port Adelaide rounds out the top eight. And we've got Carlton, West Coast, North Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Western Bulldogs, St Kilda, Melbourne, GWS. We'll take a break here on SportzScene. We'll come back. We'll do some motorsport. Stay with us.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly outside your property? Perhaps you've noticed a floodlight over a zebra crossing that's not operating. Well, Energex would like you to report it to them by calling 13 12 53 or completing an online form for faulty streetlights on their website at energex.com.au. Remember also that the council has to pay the running cost of all the streetlights, whether they're working or not. So let's get the most for our rateable dollar by reporting the streetlights not functioning to Energex on 13 12 53 or on their website energex.com.au.
For the best musical memories from the 50s and the 60s, it's Ted's Memories. Saturdays from 4 p.m. and only on 101 FM.
101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, all still here with you. Craig Crowley's he's off. He's heading off to the game this afternoon. Good luck there to the Southport Sharks. And big thanks to Craig Crowley, as always, for being with us. Darren Madigan's time to fill us in with a bit of motorsport news, mate. What's happening? Indeed.
And just before I do, I will tell you that moment that Rafa and Roger are on courts, 3-all, and games on serve. Rafael Nadal currently serving at 30. It couldn't be more even. 3-all, 30-all. Rafa serving. So there you go. Sorry.
That's what we love.
It's good to see, isn't it? All right, just taking a quick look. V8s, we get underway again next week. We go to the most boring track in Australia, I reckon, in Winton. And at the moment, the Drivers' Championship, Jamie Wingcup leading, going for number 5. Craig Lowndes, his teammate, just behind, 129 points behind there. Will Davidson, Mark Winterbottom 4th. Fabian Coulthard sitting in a 5th spot, and our good mate Jason Bright sitting in 6th. And he'd be really happy with that at the moment, Kevin, because they probably weren't expecting to be quite that high in the championship at this stage of the year with their team, but they've really put in some good performances this year, I reckon. Sorry, go on.
I said, no, terrific. It's great. And, of course, Jason, we spoke to him a few weeks ago, and you can find that interview on our YouTube site, youtube.com/SportzScene, SportsScene.
Indeed. Last weekend, Marcus Ambrose, so much was hoped for. 3 in a row at Watkins Glen. Unfortunately, it all went pear-shaped. Everything was going beautifully. He was on pole. He dominated the race. He went out there every time that the flags went green. He was pulling out 7-8 second gaps over the field. He was just showing what a really great touring car driver can do against these guys who are used to go fast, turn left. And unfortunately, late in the race, some bad mechanical failure in the rear of the car. Looked like a track bar or something like that broke in the rear, and unfortunately he was out of the race. He was not a happy camper, threw his helmet in, let the crowd know, and not good. He really needed that to have a real shot at the chase for later this year, but unfortunately that's the way it goes. Now Marcus is pulling double duty this weekend. He will be racing at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in the Level 2 Series nationwide, but he's also got his Sprint Cup duties this weekend. He's currently, I think, 26th after final practice before qualifying, with Joey Logano currently taking the quickest time there at the moment. As far as Formula One finally goes, we're into our final week of break, the enforced break that they must go through there in Formula One to give the guys a break before we head to next weekend, which is my favourite weekend of the year, which is when we go to Spa and that wonderful, wonderful track. But at the moment, just taking a look at the standings, just to bring you up to date, because it's been a few weeks since we've talked about it. Sebastian Vettel leading at the moment on 172 points from Kimi Räikkönen 134, who's 1 point ahead of Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. Mark Webber sitting on 105 points at the moment. I know we're all hoping that he can get a couple of good results in before he finally retires to go and race sports cars. At the moment, the rumours are flying around. Give these guys a break in Formula One and the journos go crazy. And a lot of it's got to do with the Red Bull drive and what's also happening at Ferrari. A lot of talk of the possibility of Kimi Räikkönen going to either team, and a lot of people putting up their hand in those teams saying, no, go away, it's not happening. So the talk at the moment, obviously, Kimi going to Lotus. Going from Lotus to Red Bull and also to Ferrari. Both, certainly Ferrari are saying it's not on the cards, and I couldn't see him racing alongside Alonso anyway. But also the thoughts of Fernando Alonso cutting out of his contract a year early and going to Lotus as well. And in amongst all of this, the more realistic option, our own Daniel Ricciardo stepping up from Toro Rosso into that. And I think that will still end up being the play that hammers out. But just, guys, in Formula One, you just never know. This crazy season, anything can happen. But I can't see Kimi Räikkönen sitting alongside established world champions like Alonso and Vettel, because it would just be a recipe for absolute disaster in Formula One. So that's basically what's happening at the moment, and next week we'll have everybody back on deck in V8s, Formula One. I think the sports cars are back up on deck and the Indy cars as well, so we'll have everybody racing and we'll be able to tell you what's going on.
That we will. Thank you very much for that, Darren. We'll take a quick break here on Sports Scene. When we come back, it's time to talk some netball. We'll get Paul Stewart from the Golden South Jags on the phone. So stay with us here on Sports Scene. Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. It's 13 minutes to 10. Your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Just a reminder, the 101 FM barbecue team will be out this Saturday cooking up a storm at Officeworks on Compton Road. Come down and say hi and grab yourself a burger and a drink and support Logan City's very own radio station, your station, 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, all here with you. It's time to talk some netball here on Sports Scene. Joining us on the line from the Golden South Jags, and a Sports Scene regular, really, Miss Paula Stewart. Welcome back to the show, Paula.
Thanks for having me, everyone.
Always a pleasure.
Good morning, Paula. It's I hope you're well this morning. It's time to take a look at what's been happening. As we said last week, we were going to take a quick look at the Australian Fast Five team and the under-21 team that's currently just headed over to, I think they've just headed over to Glasgow, is that right? For the World Youth Netball Championships?
They headed over on Wednesday, so they'll be doing a bit of preparation there. So making sure they get used to the climate and probably have a look at the courts and stuff like that. So I reckon Australia is going to do so well. I reckon it's going to be gold for them.
Let's take a look at that straight off the bat. Gretel Tippett and Gabby Simpson, the Queenslanders in the side, along with Kimberly Ravion as well from the Firebirds. And your thoughts on those those inclusions, especially Gretel?
Oh, yeah, well, Gretel was always close to my heart, so I'm so pleased to see her. She's still learning a lot in the netball, but hasn't she picked up in 2 years of playing the game and now representing her country in the Australian 21s? Absolutely fantastic for her. And with Kim Ravelon and Gabby Simpson, they've had a really good season with the Firebirds, so they've taken a huge step up this year. So to have them in the Australian 21s as well, being so young, they're just going to be lethal over there.
All right, and next week what we'll do is we'll go through what we know about the Firebirds already in terms of their team. I also want to take a look at states of origin for some of these players. Yes, Kevin's going to have to pull the soapbox out because I'm going to be jumping on it again, but we'll leave that one till next week.
It's never.
It's all good. Let's take a look at the 21 and under team. Christina Bryce from the AIS, New South Wales. Courtney Bruce from the West Coast Fever. WA is her state of origin. Paige Hadley, New South Wales Swifts, New South Wales state of origin. Cody Lang, AIS. She's originally from South Australia. That is subject to fitness. So I don't know whether she's headed over there or not at the moment, but we'll get onto that in a sec. Maddie Proud, AIS, South Australia. Kimberly Ravion, as we mentioned, Queensland Firebird, New South Wales. Kate Shimon, AIS, Adelaide Thunderbirds and South Australia. Gabby Simpson, Queensland Firebirds. Kalia Stanton from the AIS, Gretel Tippett from the she's now the New South Wales Swifts, and Queensland, Joanna Weston, AIS Victoria, and Michaela Wilson, AIS Victoria. The coach is Carol Byers, and Anita Keelan is her assistant, manager Bree McDonald. Now, Paula, how many of those players do you recognise from ANZ?
Oh, there's quite a few from ANZ. So they've had a little bit of experience out there. Probably not as much as Kimberly Ravelon, but yeah, a lot of them have had experience. They've been with the AIS now for a few months training together, and the girls that were in the ANZ came back to them when all of that had finished. So they actually been having a training camp since June, and the others from the ANZ Championships had come. So their training has been pretty well full on, and yeah, they've been doing really well. So with the girls that weren't in the ANZ Championships and were with the AIS all year, they had Julie Fitzgerald, which is a pretty good coach to have all season, and she was one that was getting them prepared as well for future. So she did a few trips. She actually came down to the Gold Coast and played against our Golden South Jags with one night as well. So Julie Fitzgerald had prepared them to a certain stage, but Carol Byers had taken over around about June for preparing for the Australian 21s.
Fantastic. Okay, and you're predicting gold medal for them over there at the World Youth Netball Championships currently in progress in Glasgow. So we'll bring you all up to date on how they're going there next week. The Australian Fast 5 team, for those of you who aren't aware, Fast 5 is basically netball's answer to 2020 cricket. It's a very fast moving form of the game. There are rule changes that allow shooting from outside of the circle by the goal shooter and the goal attack, and those points are actually worth 2 goals instead of 1. There are also power plays which double the scores again. It's a very exciting form of the game. The current Australian team is Ashley Brazil and Courtney Bruce from the West Coast Fever, Tegan Caldwell from the Melbourne Vixens, Carla Zilwacki, former Firebird, now playing with the New South Wales Swifts, and Paige Hadley from the New South Wales Swifts, Demelza McLeod from the Firebirds, Gabby Simpson also from the Firebirds, Susan Prattley from the Swifts, Jo Weston from the Vixen, and a late inclusion, she wasn't originally in the team, but a late inclusion, Gretel Tippett, has come in. How good do you think Gretel will be, given that she has a background of being a three-point shooter in basketball?
Yeah, I mean, basketball and netball, even with the Fast 5, even though there's only 5 on the court, it's fast. It is still very different, but I think it's actually an exciting time for Gretel. I think it's time for her to step up, and I think she's probably going to be new to it. And again, with the netball and basketball, different size, different weight. But I think now Gretel, after 2 years with netball, will be used to that, and having that basketball background, I think it's only going to help her.
Yeah, because you can actually shoot from outside the circle in Fast 5.
Yes. So I think it'll be a bit of the practice happening there, and I think she'll enjoy it. I think it's going to be a bit of fun, but playing for your country, you never want to lose either. So they've got some speed out there. I know that these girls are ultra fit. So you can sub on, sub off a lot in Fast 5.
Yep.
So it's a very fast game. And even though the halves are a lot shorter, it's full on. It's absolutely full on. So it's like a sprint every time they're out on the court. So, yeah, they've got some tall ones in there. They've got some speedy ones in there. So I think it's a great team. Good
stuff. All right, let's move on to the Australian Netball League. Currently, the ladder stands thus: Victorian Fury, AIS, although the AIS have withdrawn, I think, to go over, most of those players are actually over there in Glasgow, I think, if memory serves. So Victorian Flames, Queensland Fusion, Northern New South Wales Waratahs, Southern Force, Western Sting, New South Wales Blues, Tassie Spirit, Territory Storm, and the Canberra Darters. This weekend, I think Queensland have the bye there, and so it's a lot of the other teams are out of there. So we'll be looking at next weekend. I think Queensland will be into it, and we get into finals very soon, don't we?
Oh, yes, that's right. So what happened last night, New South Wales won their game, so they're definitely in the top 4.
Yep.
So what does happen, AIS were in the top 4, but now that they're out because they've gone to Glasgow, it was going to be that top 5. So with AIS out, you've got the 2 Victorian teams, Fury and Flames. They're definitely in 1 and 2. You've got New South Wales Waratahs, who won the game last night, so they're definitely in the top 3rd position. And it's going to be out of Queensland Fusion and with the South Australian team. So with South Australia playing their game tonight and tomorrow night, by my calculations, they have to win the next 2 games by about 65 goals. And it probably can happen, but because they're playing 2 of the weaker teams, but it's a big ask for South Australia. So I've got my tips that Queensland are going to scrape through by goal percentages.
Yep.
And hopefully they'll be through for the semi-finals next weekend.
All right. So at the moment, last night we had the New South Wales Waratahs 58 beat the Territory Storm 40, and the Tassie Spirit won by 3 goals, 46-43 over the New South Wales Blue. There has been a change to the Firebirds fixture. Gee, who would have thunk it? They've actually moved the games that was evenly played between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. They're now moving another couple up to Brisbane. So The fans have jumped up and down on all the forums and all that sort of stuff. Never mind the people who are south of Brisbane who try to make the trip up to see their Firebirds team play. They've obviously managed to get their venue problems sorted out, and now almost all of the games will be played at the Brisbane Convention Centre, with a couple just being played down the Gold Coast. Honestly, I'm over it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just very, very angry that they do this. They do this to their fans.
They're playing the two New Zealand teams down the Gold Coast.
Yep.
And then the Thunderbirds are now moved up to Brisbane. It would have been good to see the Thunderbirds probably play at the Gold Coast, so they can have a really strong, talented match there. But I suppose leaving the two New Zealand teams down at the Gold Coast, I don't know if that's a good thing. Down the Gold Coast, there are a lot of New Zealanders down there.
Yeah.
It might feel like a bit of a home ground for them at the Gold Coast.
Yeah, my feelings on some of these things are pretty well known, and we'll have the soapbox out next week. Paula, we'll talk about the latest player movements and everything next week, and we'll go through what we know about the Firebirds for 2014. Paula, thanks for joining us this week. We'll catch up with you next week.
Okay, thanks, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Paula. We'll take a very quick break here on Sports Scene. We'll come back and wrap it all up. Stay with us.
Veterans, may be eligible to receive assistance from the Department of Veteran Affairs for one-on-one exercise conditioning and or rehabilitation programs with a doctor's referral to an exercise physiologist. Veterans who hold gold or white VVA pension cards and who reside in the Logan City area are encouraged to telephone Rebecca on 0437 542 095 for more information.
101 FM.
And now it's back to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. 1 minute to 10. Stay with us here on 101 FM as we finish up. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James with you. Darren, have you got that Roger Federer rough in the dial progress score there? That's what I'm interested to hear.
Me too.
I'll take that as
I do. 5. Wait, we've got. He's just. Where are you? Roger's just 6-5. Roger's up a break, and he's serving for the set.
Serving for the set. Beautiful. We'll keep an eye on that afterwards, after the show here. Ethan, how about a tip for the weekend?
Tip for the weekend. Up in Townsville, I think the Cowboys will keep their bit of a winning run going and get up over the Titans tonight.
That's it. Darren, you got a tip for us?
Eat them alive, Tigers. Going to beat Carlton this weekend. We have to.
And I'll back the Wallabies. I'll go out on a limb. I'll back them to beat the All Blacks tonight. I like the look of that team, and I'm backing them, even though they have got a poor record in Sydney. Thanks for listening to Sports Scene here for another week. We'll be back same time, same place next week on 101 FM.